Have you ever felt the forest breathe? When the night wraps around you and every rustle becomes a whisper, every shadow a possibility. Let me tell you about the time I ventured into the depths of Ravenswood, a place where the veil between reality and myth is as thin as a cobweb. It all started when I decided to escape the city's relentless pulse. I yearned for solitude, for the crisp air of the wild, so I packed my gear and headed to a stretch of forest untouched on any map I could find. Locals spoke of Ravenswood in hushed tones, their eyes flickering with unspoken tales, but I dismissed their warnings as mere superstition. The sun hung low in the sky as I set up camp beneath an ancient oak, its gnarled branches stretching like skeletal arms overhead. The forest was alive with the chorus of dusk, a symphony of chirping insects and distant hoots that felt oddly like a welcome. As darkness settled, the woods grew eerily silent. The wind stilled, and even the leaves ceased their incessant rustling. I sat by the flickering fire, its glow carving dancing shadows into the surrounding trees. That's when I noticed it, a faint melody threading through the silence. It was elusive, drifting just beyond the edge of hearing. Curiosity tugged at me. I found myself rising, drawn toward the haunting tune. Barely aware of my feet moving, I ventured deeper into the forest. The air grew thick, laden with the scent of moss and something sweeter, something ancient. The melody swelled, weaving itself around the trunks and roots, leading me onward. It was both alluring and unsettling, a song without words that spoke to the very marrow of my bones. I stumbled into a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. At its center stood a circle of stones, each etched with symbols that seemed to shift and writhe when not directly observed. Within the stone circle danced figures cloaked in shadow, women moving in harmony to the unheard rhythm of the earth. Their movements were fluid, otherworldly, and as they spun, their faces lifted to the sky, eyes closed in rapture. I should have felt afraid, but instead, a strange calm settled over me. Time lost its meaning. Minutes could have been hours as I watched, entranced. One of the dancers slowed, her head tilting as if catching a scent on the breeze. Her eyes opened, and even from afar, I felt the weight of her gaze. She beckoned. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, yet my feet carried me forward. As I crossed the threshold of the stones, the air hummed with energy. The women encircled me, their faces obscured by the shadows of their hoods. "Welcome, Seeker," the leader whispered, her voice sliding into my mind like a forgotten memory. "Who are you?" I managed to ask. "We are the weavers of fate, the keepers of the old ways," she replied, "and you have stumbled upon our sacred ground." "I didn't mean to intrude," I stammered, though a part of me wondered if that was entirely true. "Few find this place unless it wills itself to be found," another spoke, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Perhaps you were called." They moved aside, revealing a stone altar at the center of the circle, adorned with candles whose flames burned unnaturally steady. "Join us," the leader extended her hand. Her skin was cool to the touch, sending a jolt up my arm. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice barely more than a breath. "A crossroads between worlds," she answered. "A place where destinies can be rewritten, where one can glimpse the threads that bind us all." I felt a pull, like gravity, urging me to stay, to learn. Visions flickered at the edges of my consciousness, ancient forests, towering mountains, endless skies. I saw moments of my own life, choices made and paths not taken. "Why show me this?" I murmured, overwhelmed. "Because the world is changing," she said softly. "The balance shifts, and those who can see must decide where they stand." A silence fell, heavy with unspoken implications. The forest around us seemed to hold its breath. "What if I choose to leave?" I asked. Her gaze was inscrutable. "Then you carry on as you were, the memory of this night fading like morning mist. But know that doors once opened are not easily closed." I looked around at the faces surrounding me, ageless, wise, harboring secrets I'd never comprehend. The weight of the decision pressed upon me. I'm no one special," I confessed. "That is where you are wrong," she replied. "Every thread is essential to the tapestry." The candle's flames flared, and for a moment everything was illuminated with stark clarity. I saw the interconnectedness of all things, the dance of stars and seasons, the cycle of life and death, the ebb and flow of energies unseen. I recoiled, the magnitude too immense to grasp. "I can't," I choked out. "This is too much." She nodded, a trace of sadness in her eyes. Then go. But remember, the forest does not easily release those it has claimed. The circle parted, creating a path back into the darkness. I didn't hesitate. Turning away, I plunged into the trees, branches clawing at my clothes as if trying to hold me back. The melody had ceased, leaving only the pounding of my heart and the raggedness of my breath. Finally, I burst into my campsite, collapsing beside the dying embers of the fire. Exhaustion overtook me, and I slipped into a dreamless sleep. Morning light filtered through the canopy, waking me with its gentle warmth. I sat up, half convinced the night's events had been a vivid nightmare. But as I packed my gear, I found a small pendant resting atop my backpack, a delicate silver crescent moon, identical to the ones worn by the women in the circle. A chill ran through me. With shaking hands, I pocketed the charm, unsure of what else to do. As I hiked back toward civilization, the forest seemed different, the colors sharper, the sounds richer. I felt eyes upon me, but when I turned, there was nothing but swaying trees. Weeks passed, but the memories did not fade. Dreams plagued my nights, visions of the circle, of whispered prophecies and paths diverging. I tried to return to my old life, but everything felt muted. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I found myself drawn to the edge of the woods near my home. The pendant felt heavy in my pocket. Perhaps the forest doesn't let go after all, I whispered to myself. A rustling caught my attention, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a familiar figure among the trees, a woman with eyes that held the secrets of the universe. I faced the darkening woods, the same pull from that night tugging at my soul. The choice lingered before me, a step into the unknown or retreat to the safety of the mundane. Taking a deep breath, I made my decision. They say the forest has a life of its own, that it calls to those who are willing to listen. If you ever find yourself beneath the tangled boughs and the night sings a song only you can hear, ask yourself, are you ready to answer?